your entire career, 21 years in Dallas, all in one city. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's been an amazing ride. You know, when I first got to Dallas, I didn't know how this was going to play out. I wasn't sure whether it was good enough, whether I could make it in this league. And then, you know, we just kept getting better as a team. Individually, I got better. Mark Cuban buying the team my second year helped a lot. You know, he was a big supporter of mine and became a good friend. And so he's been super loyal to me. So it kind of sort of organically grew together. I was getting part of the community and I was getting the support back. And so it feels amazing that I've been able to be there for the entire career. And I'm very proud to say that I was always happy to represent the Dallas Mavericks.
Now, even before you won it all in 2011, you were on some really good teams. What put that 2011 team just over the top?
Yeah, we sort of got hot at the right time. You know, we weren't a heavy favorite all year long. We had some injuries. Caron Butler unfortunately tore his patella tendon, and so we kind of came into the playoffs feeling okay about ourselves. Definitely not really hot, but it felt like we got better from series to series. I think obviously, you know, Portland was actually our toughest series if you go back, and then we kind of that really gave us a lot of confidence, and then we beat the Lakers next. So I think we had a bunch of older guys that had no egos, that all achieved personal goals, MVPs, you know, All-Star games, all sorts of things, but none of them had won a championship. So we kind of all bonded over that and fought for each other, and we had a great mix. I think what the best thing was, we had the roles defined. You know, we had some great defenders, we had some scorers, we had some shooters around. So I think we had a great mix, and obviously some great coaching around.
Questions for Dirk? Right here.
Congratulations, Dirk. Mark Stoll with the Miami Times newspaper. Speaking on finals appearances and championships, go to the Hall with Dwayne Wade. Just can you touch on those experiences back in 2006 and 2011, and the impact and the type of player that Dwayne Wade is?
Yeah, we actually bonded here the last few weeks and months, starting in Houston, because you know, obviously we competed at the highest level on the highest stage, and you know, there were some things said on both sides, and it was emotional at times. So there were pretty frosty times between us. I'd say that's a good word to sum up the relationship. But you know, now that it's all said and done and competition is over, I think there's an appreciation and the respect there for each other's career. And so we had some great talks along the way now. And I think most of the stuff that we were kind of fighting over is kind of, you know, it's kind of over and done with, and I'm happy to go in the Hall with him, obviously. It's a great class. He's one of the best two guards, obviously, to ever play the game, and so I'm thrilled to go in with him and Powell and Tony and Pop, and obviously all the coaches here, and they've done so much for our game, for our sport, so happy to be a part of this class.
Steve Foster, ESPN San Antonio. I think I'm probably the only one here who's lived in Würzburg when you were a kid.
Oh,
and
sweet.
was born in Germany as well. So to stick with everyone, guten Tag,
Hello, alles gut, kein Problem.
Yeah. What did you do as you were growing up as a kid playing handball and tennis to help you with your game of basketball?
Well, I think I would always recommend young players these days to you know, try all sorts of sports. To me, we're specializing our kids way too early these days. Practicing 4 or 5 times a week when they're 8 years old, I just think it's way too much. I'm a complete believer of the opposite. Try all sorts of sports. It helps you in the sport you want to be good at. I think tennis was amazing from a hand-eye coordination, from a footwork. Handball was a very rough sport, so you kind of had to use your body to get by some people. So I used all these other experiences in different sports to help me later on in my basketball. So I think that's going to be the approach that I'm going to take with my own kids. Try out whatever you like, all all sorts of things, and eventually find what you want to do and find your passion.
Isaac Harris, Mavs in lockdown. Good to see you, Dirk.
How's it going?
21 years in Dallas, a lot of great memories in Dallas, but those last few years consisted of a lot of pain, a lot of recovery, a lot of shots. What about the game of basketball kept you going?
Well, you know, once the game started, it was always the thrill, the adrenaline that I loved. Of course, the last couple of years were harder. You know, I couldn't practice anymore here at the end, and you know, you had to spend hours on the training table just to still get ready to play. That took some of the fun away, of course, but once the ball went up, and I was still like a child, even though I was 40 years old at the end. The ball went up, the crowd was there. It's like you get this rush, and it was still fun to compete, even though it's my last 2 years were getting harder. But yeah, I'm glad I held up for 21 years. It's been, like I said, a wonderful journey with some amazing people, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Hey, Dirk.
Edward.
Eddie Sefko, Mavs.com.
How you doing, bud?
Getting into the Hall of Fame obviously is a great legacy, but Tony Parker was up here and he said he called you the GOAT of European basketball. And I'm just wondering how you feel about being the foundation piece of an entire movement.
Yeah, he told me that yesterday, and I was very humbled by that. You know, I always, give credit to everybody else. I think there were guys that paved the way for me with Schrempf, Kukoc, and so Petrovic, so many others. Probably even Sabonis, who we haven't even seen the best Sabonis. He was a beast before he got hurt and even came over here. And then, if I came in and helped, inspire and motivate some guys along the way, then that makes me incredibly proud. It's always hard though to pick a GOAT, and I think that's also part of the special debate. It's everybody's always wanting to compare eras, and it's just impossible to do. The styles change. The game is so different now than it was even 20 years ago when I got in the league. So it's hard. It's hard to compare, but if that's his opinion, then of course, I'm very glad to hear that, and I'm proud to hear that.
Jeff Garcia, Kings 5 San Antonio. Congratulations, Dirk.
Hey, Jeff.
Quick question. You talked about Tony Parker right now, but what does it feel for you to be going into the Hall of Fame with Tony and Pop, two guys that were a thorn in your Dallas Mavericks side during your playing days, and also despite those battles in the playoffs between San Antonio and Dallas, San Antonio fans have a lot of respect for you, and you teared up at the farewell video when you announced your retirement. Just your thoughts on that, and what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I used to hate the Spurs. I mean, it was just every year they were so good. Every year for so long, and they were always kind of beating us up. They were the big brother, and until we finally broke through. I think in 06 we beat them for the first time in the playoffs, and so. But just a credit to them, how good they were, how good Timmy was for almost 2 decades, and obviously all the other guys, Manu and Tony. But I was never a huge Spurs fan there, I gotta say. But nothing but respect for obviously Coach Pop, what he's done for me, the whole organization in my last game with the tribute video, and that was super sweet. They didn't have to do that, so. There's a lot of respect there, mutual respect. We had some great battles at the highest stage, and but always try to be classy and respect each other, and I think that's what we did for a long period of time.
About to ask where they're at podcast. I wanted to ask you about 1998 when you were drafted in the first round of the lottery, but that game, the Nike Hoop Summit, probably the greatest performance still in the history of that game. Now, talk about how that gave you confidence to know that you can be able to mature and be the great player you became.
Yeah, that one game kind of changed my life overnight. That game was in San Antonio back then during the Final Four, and there were so many scouts. There were college scouts, NBA scouts. It was live on ESPN2, I think, at the time. And just that one game kind of changed my life. I flew home after that, my phone, I didn't have a cell phone obviously then, my parents' phone had stopped ringing, and we didn't buy an answering machine because with time difference, the U.S. guys weren't that clear that, so they called in the middle of the night always. So we had to get an answering machine, and it was a fun time there. Those couple months leading up to the draft after, and just seeing the hype, and I was a little overwhelmed with the feedback after that game, I got to say. So it was a fun time for me though, for my life, and then I ended up getting drafted and going to Dallas.
Grant Afseth from Dallas Basketball.
Hey, Grant.
With the Hall of Fame being to immortalize your basketball impact, when people reflect on your game 20 or 40 years from now, what do you think they'll be thinking about long term?
Yeah, I mean, probably, just the ability to shoot at a 7-foot frame. That was really my strength. Of course, we're doing little other things, but people always remember me for my ability to stretch the floor, playing the mid-range a little bit, some of my fadeaway shots. So that's really what I brought to the game. I mean, I wasn't a great rebounder or defender, or none of that. I was a scorer at heart, and I always wanted to score for my team and get us going, and scoring was the best part of my game.
One more for Dirk.
Hey, Dirk. Brad Townsend, Dallas Mavericks.
How's it going?
The other day on the radio, you said something I thought was pretty interesting. You said you felt like going into the Hall of Fame was the ultimate way to end this phase of your life, and I wondered if you could elaborate on that a little bit, and maybe how much reflecting you've done.
Yeah, I think honestly there's just nothing else coming for my basketball career. This was 21 years, and then the last 3 years some beautiful awards and street naming and jersey retirements. But the Hall of Fame is the top of the top, the top of the mountain, and so to me this kind of caps this first phase of my life. And it's been a heck of a ride, and I wouldn't do anything different. Like I mentioned earlier, it was so much fun playing, hoops and chasing my dreams and doing the sport that I love. So it was an amazing ride, and to me this is sort of the end to it, and then we'll see. There's plenty of life left, honestly. So we'll see what else I get into, or where and when I'll stick around basketball. I think all that is remaining to be seen, but I see this as sort of the end to the first phase of my life, and I couldn't be happier.
Thank you, Dirk, and congratulations again.
Thank you.